So what inspired the idea to install the sprinklers at Rocky Pines?
Well, I think the easy question was the fires that we've been enduring. I'll say enduring because I think it's going to be a continuance. I think what happened at the Lytton First Nation in the village of Lytton was obviously a catastrophe. We actually were subjected to part of that burn north of one of our reserves, the Rocky Pines Reserve, out in Lower Nicola off of Aberdeen Road, where it did create a lot of anxiety and fear and concern to our community members. Although the fire was a good distance away, the way the turbulent winds were occurring on a constant, it really did send a message to us that we needed to do something. And Rocky Pines is probably our main community that has quite a bit of tree stands in its area, along with Joyeska up in the outskirts of Merritt. But I think Rocky Pines is probably our driest area. And so, and the size of the community, it's quite important for us to really pay attention to a preventative measure that would provide some calm to our community, but also, for as leaders in the community, just give us a sense of reassurance that we are enacting on some preventative measures in case, of course, with the way the weather's been the last 4 or 5 years, it's so unpredictable that we just wanted to be prepared the best way we could.
I understand there was that fire at Stumbles Creek recently. Have there been any other nearby fires in the past couple of years?
Yeah, there have been. In fact, we've had some fires right on our reserve. There were fires that shouldn't have occurred. It involved some waste that was dumped on our communities, and it created a lot of concern again. And there's a fire here and there, like any community. Grass fires out in the outskirts of the city of Merritt as well too. I mean, we are in a situation, I guess, where we have to be fire ready, regardless of whether it's the month of May or the month of September. You just never know what Mother Nature can give you.
How many sprinklers are being installed along the perimeter of Rocky Pines?
That I'm not 100% clear on. I know that we did purchase a sprinkler system, and what we're hoping to do is we wanted to rely on the waterways of Gishon Creek to fill up bladders and run these sprinklers. I guess it would be on the west side of Rocky Pines where the new bridge has been built, so that we can keep a parameter around. The number I'm not 100% sure on. What we did was we wanted to focus on Rocky Pines because of the depth of the reserve, and we wanted to make sure that we were covering the northern end where most of the tree stands were subjecting our community. So I never did have the opportunity to actually take a look at how it was all laid out, but it was there was a pretty penny spent to purchase the sprinkler systems, and the fire team were very confident that if we needed to use them, that they would be able to help veer the fire away if a fire did come our way.
So are there any future plans to install more sprinklers along the perimeter or borders around the res?
Well, something that I've thought about, and I know that it's happening in the municipality, is residents that living in areas where there's tree stands, they're putting their own sprinkler systems up on their roofs of their homes. And that is something that we had talked about in the past, and I don't know, those discussions haven't developed any further as of late. It's something that I would like to speak with our fire captain about, and the leadership, is to see if there is a pot of money maybe, or it could be own source revenue from our community to take a look at that and do a feasibility study on that, especially in the areas where we feel geographically the homes would be more at risk. Now, when we take a look at our village here of Shaloose, yes, we do have a big dry field out there, and is Rocky Pines or other reserves more at risk than us? We'd have to measure that and find some resourcing that could help us determine what areas would be more at risk than others. And if it's an opportunity for us to install sprinklers on our homes and our infrastructure, that would be something that I would definitely consider.
Any plans for future control lines or whatnot along anywhere, whether it be Shaloose, other side of Rocky Pines, elsewhere?
Oh yeah. We have a fire resiliency committee. I chair the committee. We have members of our team, our administration, and band members that sit on this committee. And so that's one of the things that we're trying to do, is we're trying to be more fire smart. And we have support from our fire department, We have support from BC Wildfires, and we have support from our administration and leadership to provide a work plan to recognize what our intentions are for Fire Smart on our reserves. And a lot of that has to do with many of our members taking more responsibility for their homes and being more cooperative. And we're struggling with that right now. And we haven't found a way yet to bring to the attention of some of our community members that your houses are time bombs, and the things that you have around your home is just dangerous. The contaminants that we don't know of, but there are contaminants on our reserves for some of our community members. We have to try to find a way to socialize an understanding that we have to take care of one another. You know, we might have two nice homes that are fire smart. Their firewood is away from the home. There's no trees, or there's pruning that's taken place. Pine needles have been raked. 4 or 5 vehicles that don't need to be there are gone. And then, so you have residents that are being responsible, and then you have a resident that's living in between two responsible residents that's not. If a fire were to hit, those houses are at risk. So that's something that is important to me as the kūkūkʻpiʔ of my community and my leadership, that we try to present a program that is it's not pointing fingers at anyone. It's just that we want to protect our land and we want to protect our people.
What are the contingency plans in the case that, God forbid, there's a fire that's too big for the sprinklers?
Well, the fire has no mercy, and we spoke about this just a couple of weeks ago. Are we fire ready? Like, are we ready to take on a fire if that happens to us? Obviously, with things going on, and look at what happened at Jasper. We're at the I can't think of the term. We're at the feet of fire, I think maybe is the best way to describe it. So to ask, do we have a contingency? The only thing that we can do is, if we have to evacuate, we need to evacuate. Now, is everyone going to cooperate with that? No. Because when we were evacuated a couple of years ago, I know band members that refused to leave until they had no absolute choice but to leave. We have a lot of people that are disabled. We have a lot of people that are vehicleless. And if you're asked to evacuate, how are you going to do that? You know, there's different situations in our community that we have to consider. We have people in our community that have very extreme health conditions where moving them out of their home could be catastrophic for them. And so what we need to understand, and this is something that administration and governance need to align with, is how do we accommodate our people if, I say, with this contingency, we have to evacuate. How are we going to house these people? Some people can live in a hotel. Some people can live at the work camp that we had and live in those conditions. But we have other people that they need space. They need a different level of comfort because of their medical or their physical conditions. And so there is no right answer, at least as far as I'm concerned. But we just have to be cognizant that if something happens in our community and there is a fire that breaks out, that we need to understand and we need to respect that everyone's going to make a different decision. We can't bulldoze over people. If they make that decision to refuse to leave their home, we can't force them. So maybe what we need to understand is the liability behind situations that can occur that involve fire, and that is, maybe we need to go door to door to our membership and say, if we need to evacuate you, are you going to? And if they say no, then maybe we need to say, well, agree to this then and sign this, so that at least our conscience is cleared the best way it could be. Because I know we do have members that would, if they were asked to evacuate, they would, but we have other band members that will refuse to. That's reality.
So outside of installing sprinklers, what else is LNIB doing in regards to fire mitigation or firefighting?
We've been working with BC Wildfires in the last couple of years. We're grateful to have some band members that work with BC Wildfires, some that I've worked with in the past, and they have great knowledge on how to deal with interface wildfires and such. We have a Lower Canadian Band Fire Department, and their mandate is to deal with structural fires and such. So there's a variance in the type of support and I guess resource that we have at our disposal. As we move forward, there's so much more we can do with fuel management. I think our main focus right now though is getting into our community homes and assessing our homes and getting our homeowners to understand if their homes are fire smart or not. The problem with that is it's expensive. It costs money to do that. And how do we go into our band members' homes and say, well, your home is not fire smart. You need to clean it up. And we have elders that can barely walk up and down stairs, and we're going to ask them to, rake their pine needles or move their stacks of wood to a certain distance. Install sprinklers if we do decide to put sprinklers on band members' homes. There's a lot of moving parts to that very thing that we need to do. The Squalex First Nation near Chase, Little Shuswap Indian Band, endured a fire last year, and there were homes that were lost there, but there were homes that were saved because those homes were fire smart. That, I think, needs to be our focus with our entire community. Now, do we bring the community together and have a fire smart meeting? I would say we should do that. Just to talk about, bring some experts in. I'm not an expert. Administrations aren't experts. Bring the experts in to enlighten our membership, socialize to them, that this is serious. This is serious stuff. We've already been exposed to it. We've been subjected to it already. Are we going to wait one more big fire that we lose one of our communities because we decided not to be fire smart? An open-ended question that we need to ask our membership. But that's a tall order. But I really believe that we can do it. And maybe it's a meeting every other month. And like I say, bring someone in, and we have to get our communities assessed. And we need to figure out within our community how many of the community members can do it themselves and start supporting the ones that can't. So that, like I said, all our homes are all, the same. Because right now they're not.
If you're able to share, what are some traditional methods that LNIB incorporates in fire mitigation or firefighting?
We have been approached by some local members about cultural burning. We've had a few engagement sessions in the last 4 years to talk a little bit more about cultural burning, and that's something that used to be done back in the old days. That's how berries would replenish medicines and teas and things like that. And burning did take place. That's what the elders and some of the stories that have been shared with me, that's what we used to do. Things are a lot different nowadays than they are back then. I mean, obviously, arson is a scary word. And I think with some of the massive fires that have occurred over the years, doing cultural burning, in probably the eyes of many people in the masses of society, would frown upon it. But if you can really understand it and have a controlled system, all you're doing is back burning. And you're burning the things that's going to help if a fire does arise. It's already burned off, and the fire has nowhere to go. And that's what people need to understand about BC wildfires and how those fires, the damage that they can actually do, but what cultural burning could do to prevent that. We talk about fire guards, and you got to get into the dirt so that the flames can't go anywhere. But the fire guards are only so large, and then fires will jump. But if you can do cultural burning, that size difference is huge. And if you have a fire at one point, but you burned off, 100 meters, where's that fire going to go? And so we haven't really delved into cultural burning. I think that's something we should revisit. Is it something that we can do now? I don't think so. We're right in the middle of a fire season now. We'd be reacting to that, but that's something that I would like council to consider. Bring in this resource, speak with leadership, speak with their membership, and start talking about exactly, fire mitigation. But as far as what have we done now, we've done a little bit of burning, and traditionally we would burn the big field here in the springtime. So there's always, and people do burn their hay fields, and we'd have the fire department helping. BC Wildfires would be there to support as well too if the winds picked up and the fire got away, which has happened. many times in our community. So there is that aspect of burning, and it is fire mitigation essentially, but the ranchers are burning their fields so that the hay can grow, along with when freshet comes and then irrigation can take place. But as we get into the hotter parts of the summer season, all these fields are now greened, or should be, but what are we doing about our tree stands and those areas? And that's where I think the cultural burning could really be a benefit for our community, all Indigenous communities.
So overall, to kind of just summarize what we've been talking about, what's the long-term plan in terms of fire mitigation and firefighting for LNIB?
Well, what we want to do is we want to build our fire department. Now, with that, in saying that, we have requirements and liabilities that we have to be mindful of right now. What we need to understand and what leadership needs to explore is how can we build our fire department so that we are not only dealing with structural fire situations, but so that we're not, compromising our program. That if we have another appendage to that fire department for wildfire fighting, that's something that I think would be a really good thing for LNIB. And however, again, there's a cost attached to that, and how do we afford that? What kind of program funding can we pull that would be supported so that we have we actually have two sides to the coin when it comes to service delivery. And so that's something that we have been talking about, and we would like to build our fire department. I know our community would be a lot more at ease knowing that we have two services coming out of that department. We have structural fire service, but we also have BC wildfire service. The other thing, in terms of how we move forward, is education. We have to socialize. We have to engage with our community. Maybe we need to illustrate through what other Indigenous communities have had to endure, the losses that community members from other respective communities have lost due to fire. It's not a scare tactic. It's just facts. I think the Little Shoe Shop Indian Band is a good example of that very thing. And ironically, we have two band members that I know of anyway that live on that reserve. One of them lost his house, and the other his house was saved. And so we just have to share information, I think, too. With our neighbors. Maybe spend some time with the Lytton First Nation group. Whether it's the governance or the admin, and just share information and talk about what was learned. Because right now, thankfully, we're okay. But are we safe? I wouldn't say we're safe. I don't think anyone is safe. So we have to be aware of that. We have to get everybody in our community to get on board and support a fire mitigation vision. Our children and our grandchildren, children and our great-grandchildren will learn and adhere to and abide by. So that is a big task, but we have to start somewhere. And the time is now, obviously, and we just have to get better.
So what can members and residents of neighboring communities like Merritt, Logan Lake, Shacken, so on and so forth, what can the surrounding Nicola Valley communities do to help LNIB and help each other? Because we're all in the same valley at the end of the day.
You're right, and I think something that I see that would be very beneficial for everyone is the different entities or governance groups working together. We don't have to get along, but we have to work together. The mayor and council, the directors of the TNRD, the different respective regions, the Indigenous governances, so all the chiefs and councils of Shacken, Newayatch, Coldwater, Upper Nicola, and Lower Nicola. We have to find a way to sit down at a table and talk about our losses and maybe talk about our gains, if we have any gains, on what fire mitigation looks like to all of us. Mutual aid agreements, so that fire departments that are active or operational can actually go out, and if a fire does strike, whether it's a residence or a grass fire, we have to have it's almost like, the way I look at it is we have to have this big red alert button that one of us hits if there's something that's going on. And we have all of our resourcing responding to it, whether it's the Merritt Fire Hall, Lower Nicola Fire Hall, BC Wildfires. These groups that are here to protect us and to suppress fire, they are notified, and then we know who's got to go, why, and how many. Because if we go to one fire, but another one strikes and we're spread too thin. So we have to find a process that it's almost like we have people on watch or on alert. One group goes to this call, but we have another group ready and another group ready. So that's working together. Now, you start talking about insurances and liabilities though, and mutual aid agreements, which is fire-based. Well, what does that really mean? And do people feel like if they sign a mutual aid agreement, whether it's the TNRD or one of the indigenous communities, and if a fire does occur on their community and they hit that red button, are they going to get the service that they need? And is there any liabilities that are tied to that? And what I talked about earlier about providing two different programs for my fire department is for structural and for BC wildfires. So again, the province has to understand and the province has to jump on board and provide us that resource so that our whole valley here can feel protected, whether it's up at on the hillside there, I forget the name of it now, above Gateway 286. They're at fire risk there. The Coldwater Indian Band, they're at risk. Nwaich, they're at risk. Anyone out in Sunshine Valley, there's a lot of fire risk out there. So if something does happen, do we have the manpower to do it? Do we have the manpower to provide that service? Because the last thing you want to do is deal with a casualty, because that can happen. And so how does that look though? Like bringing all of these groups together? Is it effective? Would there be value to it? I would think so. But we have to have some kind of moderation there, because everyone has an interest, right? We have to figure out, okay, what is the common denominator for all of us, and agree to it, support it.
Have there been any strides in this?
I would say no. Our current service delivery right now is LNIB reserve lands, and I believe that we do have some agreement with Nwaich First Nation, and we do have an agreement with the municipality in terms of geographics, because we have reserve lands that are on the west side of Merritt. That's Godey and that's Zucht. So for us to get a call here and to drive all the way through Merritt, we're going to drive past a fire hall to go to a call. It just makes better sense that we do a relaying of, okay, so there's something going on one of our reserves on the other side of town, and they'll take the call. So there is some momentum and there's some movement there, but it needs to be solidified. It needs to be a solid program, because I don't know what kind of relationship the city has with BC wildfires, and that's I think the missing link right now in terms of just providing we can present to all of our people that we have a program and we know what we're doing. This is what we're going to do, and this is the service that we have to provide. Now, does that mean that Coldwater and Shaken and Nwaich, which are communities that are a little further out, what kind of resourcing can we provide for them? Because I don't believe that the Coldwater Indian Band Fire Department is operational. And I'm not sure if the Shaken Indian Band's fire department is operational or how operational it is, and how if it's been active. And I know Nwaich does not have a fire department, but they have some fire equipment. So, how do we support everyone? Is there a central spot at Sunshine Valley for the TNRD out in Sunshine Valley, or is it every man for themselves? So those are things that I would like to understand, so that we could initiate some dialogue to say, how can we do better for everyone?
I understand in Merritt there's the Stewie X program, which has members from every single Nicola Valley community working together on a flood mitigation plan. It's just kind of surprising to me that this isn't a thing for fires as well. We have one for water, but not fire. Yeah,
and maybe that's something that is on the horizon. I don't know what the vision is for the city council. I know that the bridge out by the Tolko site that that goes over Coldwater River there is a huge project, and that's huge for the city, and that's a focus. And I think that there's so much going on. There's that we and when I say we, decision makers like governance, we get inundated with so much activity, and we just, instead of trying to do 10 things at once and you get no progress, sometimes you got to do some things just one at a time. And I can't speak for any other nation, I can't speak for the municipality, I can't speak for TNRD, but I can't speak for LNIB, and that's something that we deal with every day. Is we have so much happening all the time, and but that's a really good point. I mean, maybe that is a stepping stone to a better relationship with everyone.
Just curious, when were you a firefighter?
Oh gosh, that was in the early 90s.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
You must have a tale or two to tell.
Oh, I do. It was actually one of my best experiences, I think. I learned a lot about myself in terms of just how far I could push myself with just the hard work that firefighting is all about. There's probably a lot of people out there that don't understand that even just hiking side hills is extremely hard work to do, and not to mention, all the other work that we did. Whether it's digging fire guards or running on chainsaws, and just all that labor, and then the long hours. It was I learned a lot about myself. I think I did it for 4 or 5 years, and it's a really good experience.
What are some lessons from that era that have carried over into your chiefhood?
Well, I started out just as a scrub firefighter, but I think some of the leadership at that level saw something different in myself. I wound up being a crew boss. I wound up being a supervisor for my initial attack crew. So I learned how to, delegate. Delegating was something that you had to learn to do, but also be fair. I was taught that you do the exact equal work that you ask other people to do. You're an equal. We're all here for the same thing. You're not a boss and you just sit in the truck and drink your coffee and read a book. You're out there doing exactly what everyone else is doing. I've also learned that you're always going to run into situations where you may not have people that work under you or work with you that you're going to get along with. And there's a little bit of conflict resolution that I experienced on a few occasions as well too, and it taught me how to maybe control emotions when you're working long hours and long days and you're out there for a long time. You're away from your family, and you're living in a tent sometimes, and it can be raining for 10 days straight. It's really hard on your mental health. And so I think there was just maybe a level of life discovery for me in terms of just my comrades, the people I work with. I still have everlasting relationships with some of those crew members. Some of them we've lost, some of them have passed, but I see them from time to time, and I still remember their nicknames. So that was we built a family through teamwork and just dealing with some of the adversity we had to deal with. Thankfully, we didn't lose anyone while we were on a crew. No one was, we didn't have any losses, but we had some injuries. We had some guys get hurt, and and it affected everyone. But I just learned a lot about just, we have a lot of different ways of living. That's what I learned from my crew. Everyone has their story, but like I said, I still have these brotherhood relationships with some of these old crew members that I still stay in contact with today.
That's wonderful. That's about it from my end. Is there anything that you'd like to add in regards to anything that we talked about or other stuff?
The only thing I guess that I would like to say is fire can change your life. I dealt with a house fire as a teenager. We lost a house on the reserve here back in the mid 80s, and it was life changing for my mom and my dad and my older brother and my 2 sisters, and I experienced it myself firsthand. We have other people that have experienced house fires as well, where they've lost everything, and it's a demoralizing feeling. So I don't know if it's a message that I, as chief, can present to my community or to other people about, well, I've been there and done it, you know, or bring my dad in as the patriarch of our family, or my mother's the matriarch of our family. What were we going to do? That morning when we drove in, all you could see is the fridge, the stove, the washer and dryer, and the dishwasher. Everything else was gone. Or the hot water tank and the furnace. And it was the most helpless feeling. Just as a kid, I can't imagine how my parents felt, because they had to take care of 4 children. So I guess something that I think about, and that is really impressing that upon our people. And when I say our people, I'm not just talking about my community or all the other Indigenous communities. When I say our people, it's all of us. You know, like, how do you impress upon loss so that people, it really it dives into their thinking, so that they can reestablish their social responsibility to not only themselves and their families and their homes, but their neighbors. You know, I think social responsibility is really important. And if you can't be socially responsible, you're putting everybody at risk. That was a fire in the wintertime. No one else was at risk other than my dad's truck, a tractor, animals. We lost an animal. But had that happened in the summertime, or, you know, how is everyone around us at risk? Are they safe? So I guess the message that or the last thing I want to say is that we have to be socially responsible for ourselves and our communities.